She started.
This is Miss Diamond. This is our second groom together. We're just gonna go ahead and do a face, feet, and fanny trim. She's still pretty low. The weather is really back and forth right now, so we don't want to take her short and have that chance that she could be cold at all. She is a mix. I'm going to go ahead and reach out and say she's Yorkie and Chihuahua or something, another terrier. But she's super sweet. Maria, she's such a sweet bunny. But we tend to do more of the Yorkie style on her, whereas the tipped ears mean that you just take and shave the upper portion of the ear and scissor it nice and tight to leave that skin off. And then she has back dew claws, and if you're new to grooming or you're grooming your own dog, you need to make sure that your dog does not have those back dew claws, because it could get caught in your clipper and have a very bad time with that. Probably have a vet visit. So I just check the eye corners to make sure there's no discharge caked up that's going to hurt her to remove. If there's too much buildup in the corners, you have to wash that area first, because what happens is that excess will catch the skin. It basically fuses itself to the skin itself, and sometimes when you do the eye corner scoop, you remove the top layer of the epidermis, which sometimes is they'll bleed when that happens, so you have to be very careful. Just be a little bit proactive. It was about a month ago that she was in, so she really doesn't have too much as far as this maintenance clipping goes. When you're doing the anus, make sure you go back and forth, and then above the rectum and right below the rectum. Do not go over top the entire thing, because you're likely to catch on the skin. For paw pads, I like to do the paw pads before the bath. The reason is that it has a lot of hair and it contains the moisture. It gets hard to dry the feet. So if you have that hair cleared out before the wash, you're going to have an easier time drying. And I like to use the 30 blade for the feet. Some groomers like to use the 40 blade. And to each their own, everyone's got their own preferences. For me, the 40 blade caught too much skin, and I had too many accidental nicks with the 40 blade. It's basically a surgical blade is what the 40 blade is. It's what the doctors are going to use to prep the areas on the skin for surgery, to get rid of all that hair so the incision site and whatnot doesn't get infected. So that's pretty simple right there for the first steps. I'm not going to edge the ears until after the bath. So yeah, basically when I finish her wash, then I'm going to go back behind and I'm going to do the final trim. So I'm going to clean up her face, take a little bit off. The owners do not want any hair taken off of the tail, so that'll stay. Her feet are still pretty nice and tight from the last time she was in, but I'll just go ahead and one over on that just to make sure everything is all tight. Something that happens after you wash a dog, the hair fluffs out, and you're going to see hairs that you didn't see before It basically brings them to life. It's kind of like what I like to say. But yeah, actually I'm gonna go ahead and do her nails too before the wash. Some dogs you want to do it before, some dogs you want to do it afterward. There really isn't too much of a difference. The only time that I really 100% say you should do the nails before the wash is if you're clipping and you're not filing. And the reason for that is sometimes, unfortunately, it happens to everyone, especially groomers. Doesn't matter how many years you've been doing it, you're gonna quick a dog eventually. And it happens if you're doing your job to the extent to get the things as low as you can. Because that's what you want. You don't want the customer to have to always ask you to get it as short as you can. You don't have that question if you are physically getting it as short as you can, and it's not my intentions to quick a dog, but sometimes it happens. It happens. Do not freak out when it does. There is styptic powder you can get from different companies. I have the BioGroom styptic powder. There are a ton of different ones on the market. In the shaving section for the men department, for beards and whatnot, they have a pen, a styptic pen. You could get that. If you don't have these things in your home and you've accidentally quicked your dog, some things that you can use is going to be flour. Some people have used bar soap. I haven't used the soap method, so I don't really know its effectiveness, but I've heard other people use it. But I have personally used the flour. It's not as good as styptic powder, but it helps. So yeah, let me go ahead and do her nails real quick. I don't really remember how she acted last time. And some dogs are going to be more wiggly, and there's different ways you can hold them to try to comfort. Sometimes if you have a second person to assist, that'll be better. If she gets nippy, I could use a muzzle, or I could use a cone. Different dogs, you'll want to do different things. But for now, I'm just going to try to push through and see what I might need to do instead. I like this Dremel because it has different settings. So she was a little bit more upset with it being on the higher point of the Dremel speed. So I went ahead and dropped it down, and that's helping her. Some Dremels have that option where you can have the variable speed. Some do not. This one I got from Walmart. The brand is Hyper Tough. Yeah, Hyper Tough. It's very inexpensive, and you can get a warranty for a couple of more dollars on it. And if it ever is to get damaged, you can just have it replaced really easily. I'm going to adjust this a little bit more to get a little bit more tension. She had too much play in it. Usually just having them with a taut lead like that is helpful. And she's doing fairly well. She is a younger dog, so there's no real telling how many times she has had this done before. And over time, it's something that they're going to get more and more used to and less freaked out for. So in these situations, you have to have a positive mental attitude. You can't get frustrated with them. Even though that's something, I'm not going to say that there's dogs that don't get me frustrated. It happens. You're human. But you have to really, if you're in this career field, you have to be sure you can hold your emotions really well, because how you react is going to feed very much onto how they react. So just by holding her around the chest here is really assisting in the process. Ideally, with a dog like her, you would need a second person to just get through it a little bit easier. But I work alone, so that's not an option for me. Okay. Okay. And I could baby talk, and I could, you know, go on and on about how it's okay, you're doing fine, but those emotions are being said silently by my aura. Just being confident in your abilities. There are other tools that could be used that I do have available for dogs that get a little bit too anxious, and she's really mild compared to some dogs that I groom. I have what's called hammocks or slings. Different people are going to say a different word. But basically what it is it looks like a harness, and it operates like a harness. And the benefit of it is it takes them up and off of their feet and gives them a little bit more comfort. Something about when the dog is elevated and not standing on their own legs, they tend to appreciate and get through things easier. I mean, and there's going to be some dogs who still just are like, nope, I'm not doing it, not happening. But basically, you just have to do what you can do. And unfortunately, I don't have a way to show you how I do my back feet. But it's similar to what I was doing up front. The only difference is I'm pulling them behind gently in an untwisted manner that's no different than anything that they would do themselves. Never pull leg over like this or up and really high. Sometimes it looks like that's happening whenever you're doing stuff just because they are giving resistance. She has a longer tail, so it usually, it could very easily be caught in your Dremel. So on her inner dew claws on the back feet, I'm just going to clip them with my clippers instead, because the danger level of just getting caught up on all this hair back here is too high. It's not worth the risk of using the Dremel there. Something that a lot of people don't know with Dremels is if you get hair caught in it, it's going to keep going. There are two Dremels that I like that do not have, if the hair gets caught in it, it stops. It basically winds up and the motor shuts off. It's a safety feature. There are two other types of Dremels out there that will just continue to go. One of them being the electric brand Dremel, or any electric Dremel. If it gets caught up on anything, it just continues to go. And there's a lot of bad things that can happen, and I hate to say it, but the worst possible side effect of that happening is death. There have been dogs who have been killed because the electric Dremel caught a hair and the dogs got their necks broken, unfortunately. When you have long-haired dogs like her or other drop coat dogs, it's something that is a high probability of happening. So you have to play defense and prevent those things from happening. And one of the ways you can do so is going to be by holding the foot example, and you're going to pull the hair back. You're going to pull all the hair back as far as you can, and then you're going to do the services. Then with the tail, the way I'll do it is I'll hold this foot in my hand, take my pinky finger and wrap the tail in, turn around and wrap all those fingers in, and then your index finger is going to then push back the hairs and then manipulate the toes in the manner that you want to get them done easier. Same with this foot. You take and you wrap it around and you do blah blah blah. There are other methods, like different dogs are going to do differently. You might have to hold it in a different way. Like if she wouldn't allow me to pull her legs back, I would reach around and I would hold her foot like this. And then I would do exactly like I did up front and just pull the feathering back and then do my trimming. Ears get in the way a lot. Not on her breed, but some Yorkies have super long ears. So what I like to do is I like to take those ears up and I like to put a ponytail around it. 2 or 3 twists, not tight, just enough to contain that hair, and it's going to look like a ponytail on top of the head. And then that's going to be up and out the way, so when you're doing this, that's not going to be hanging down also. When you do the ponytail method, do not leave it in for a long time. Only for short bursts to do those quick things and then you remove it. And the reason you're going to do it that way is because in case of the possibilities of the ear being caught up into it a certain way that could lead to hematomas. If you're not aware what hematomas are, it's damage to the blood vessels where blood pools underneath the skin. And it's a very high probability in ears for that to happen. Ears bleed and bleed and bleed if there's any damage to them. So for dogs who have matted ears, that's something that happens is because over time the mats are pulling so hard, it's damaging the skin, it's damaging the vessels underneath, and it's preventing blood flow. So it will create those hematomas, and that's a common thing with super matted ears. There are ways to attempt to prevent it, but sometimes with severity, there's nothing that can be done. Happy hoodies can help. They can restrict the shaking to then allow the blood flow. But if the dog is just so sensitive to it and they're going to shake and shake and shake, you're pretty much guaranteed a hematoma. And you're just going to have to be proactive with the owners and allow them to know that this is going to be a side effect of this possibility. Any dogs that you get in and they have super bad matted skin like that and they're anywhere on their body, hematomas can happen anywhere, but it's more dangerous on the ear just because it is flapping back and forth when they shake their heads. So off to the back we go.